Good afternoon, everyone. I, Paras Arora, on the behalf of Career and Counseling Cell, welcome you all to the Flutter Development webinar. Career and Counseling Cell, with its vision to guide and motivate students, is actively organizing such events to help students of our university. Some of our recent events were Stress Management Session by Mr. Benny Kinha and session by Amog Leela Prabhuji on Is COVID-19 a Visible Situation? And many more. Proceeding towards the session, I would like to add in order to be irreplaceable, you must be different. Keeping similar thoughts in mind on the fastest growing app development technology, that is Flutter development. This will be hosted by Rohan Chaudhary, Joint Secretary, Career and Counseling Cell. Over to you, Rohan sir.
Thank you, Paras. So, good afternoon, everybody. I am Rohan Chaudhary, the JSEC of Career and Counseling Cell, and I welcome you all to this Flutter Foundation webinar. You may have minor projects or you want to add a new skill in your career because you want to learn Flutter. So, Flutter is the best thing if you want to do app development because it is the future. It was launched in 2018 by Google, and as of now, it is the fastest growing app development technology. तो उसका बहुत scope है. So I suggest everyone who is interested in app development should learn Flutter. So let us start with our PPT on what is Flutter and get it deep into it. So this is the introduction. So let's start. So what is Flutter? See, Flutter is that app development technology which you may have noticed that in the previous app development technologies, you have to write your code 3 to 4 languages. So when you write your code in 3 to 4 languages, there is so many confusion. There are so many bugs, etc., etc. But through Flutter, you can build your app with only one code language. Yes, with only one code language on both Android as well as iOS. See, in Flutter, there you can do front end and back end from a language which is called as Dart. That Dart language is very simple as compared to Java, Kotlin, or any other programming language. So Flutter, you may say that Flutter is growing at a very fast pace, and the things that grow at a very fast pace are generally temporary. But as of Flutter, it is not the case because Flutter जो है उसे Google ने बनाया है, and Google, you all know that it has the best software developer engineers in the world. Best software developer engineers Google के होते हैं, जैसे कि आपने सुना होगा कि that he has got a 1 crore placement, she has got a 2 crore placement, etc., etc. So those engineers have built this language by learning from all the past languages and building this efficient language. So it is built by Google, which is arguably the largest software company in the world. So it has a very strong backing and it is not temporary. It was launched in 2018. So the problem of writing code in many languages, 3 to 4 languages for building apps on Android and iOS, has been solved. This problem was prevalent from last around 10 to 15 years when there was app development, when app development was very widely used for building apps. So there was a problem for developers because, as you all know, 3 to 4 languages, it is very difficult to code because there are many bugs in thousands of lines of codes. So now, Flutter versus native. So what is native? Native languages are those languages in which you build platform-specific apps. So what are platform-specific apps? Platform means either Android or iOS. So for Android, you have to build backend in Java or Kotlin and front end in XML. So you see that you have to use minimum of 2 languages in Android, while in iOS you have to use similarly Objective-C and Swift. So you have to use minimum 1 language and maximum up to 2 to 3 languages in iOS development. So here you can see at least 3 to 5 languages are required. So hence this problem was resolved using Flutter. So Flutter has only one code base, only 1 language is required. See how big this advantage is. Now, Flutter is not the language, it is a framework. You must have heard Flutter, but it is a framework and not a language. So what is the difference between a framework and a language? See, एक एनालॉजी देता हूँ मैं आप सबको कि जैसा कि एक कॉल सेंटर होता है, उसमें काफी सारे एम्प्लॉयज काम करते हैं और बॉस होता है एक। बॉस का क्या काम होता है? बॉस का काम होता है कि जो उसने बिल्डिंग बनाई, उसने डेस्क लगाई, उसने कंप्यूटर स्क्रीन लगाई, उसने फोन्स वगैरह रखे, उसने, और वो सारा मार्केटिंग मैनेजमेंट का काम करता है। So you may consider him as a framework and the language is what you do in real life. So जो employees काम कर रहे हैं वहां पे, जो चला रहे कॉल सेंटर को, they are the language. लेकिन बहुत ज्यादा पूछा जाता है, इसी तरह फ्रेमवर्क को ज्यादा पूछा जाता है. So framework is Flutter and it is called more, and Dart is the language. So don't be confused that Dart is a separate thing. It is just a part of Flutter. You have to learn Dart if you want to excel in Flutter. So Dart is the language. So don't worry about it. So Dart is an object-oriented programming language like C++, Kotlin, Java, and Python. Not C, but C++, Kotlin, Java, and Python. So object-oriented programming languages में क्या होता है? In that you have classes and functions and you divide code into different files so that you don't get confused. There are thousands of lines of code in just one file. You can go in tens or 20s of files and divide the code into 50 and hundreds of lines. So that will be readable. So that is the advantage of object-oriented programming languages, and they use classes and functions. So advanced C++ and Python or Kotlin or Java, if you have done that, Dart is a piece of cake for you because it is very, very easy. It is just a little bit, it just has a little bit more syntax than Python and less syntax than Kotlin. Kotlin has a very less syntax as compared to C++ or Java. So you see, this has a very less syntax and it is very readable and easy to understand. I will show you in live app development that how it is very easy. So what are the advantages of Flutter? कि इसमें एक ही लैंग्वेज सब काम हो जाता है, तो उसके अलावा भी और भी एडवांटेजेस है. So the first advantage is beautiful UI. Now what is UI? UI is user interface. कि जैसे कि आप पोस्टर देखते हो, पोस्टर में ये होता है कि डेट टाइम वगैरह होता है ये सब. So पोस्टर देख के आपको अच्छा लगता है. That is the part of UI. Similarly, in apps you have UI, that is user interface, and in that user interface you add text, you add app bar, you add buttons, etc., etc. That comes under UI, and designing of that part is called as UI. And UI designing in Flutter is very, very easy because as compared to Java or Kotlin, to add widgets you have to write at least 50 to 100 lines of code, including dependencies. But in Flutter, it will be done in just 10 to 20 lines of code. When you do that, you will understand. If you have done already Java or Kotlin or any iOS development, so it has out-of-the-box designs because it is built by Google, and Google is the harbinger of material app development. UI is very great in Flutter, and many apps have opted for Flutter because of its very rich and unique UI. So another thing is fast reload. See, what is fast reload? Fast reload is that when you want to see a change in your app, just like that, I want to change the text color from red to black or red to yellow or green to black, etc., etc., or change the button orientation, shift it from center to bottom or right or top, etc., etc. So you want to see that changes. So you have to restart your app again. And when you did that in Java or Kotlin or iOS, you must have seen that it will take around 1 minute, at least 1 minute, to see the necessary changes. But in Flutter, you can see that in less than 5 seconds. Yes, less than 5 seconds. So it will save your minutes every day and hours every week and even days in your lifetime if you are doing Flutter development in a big company. So you see, this is very big advantage as compared to other apps, app development technologies. So hot reload, you can see that mere seconds are required for seeing changes. I will show that even to you. So the third thing is it has a great documentation. It has the to-the-point documentation. And now what is documentation? कि programming जब आप करते हो तो उसमें books नहीं चाहिए होती आपको. You don't require books. What you require is a documentation. A documentation is present on websites which are built by the respective app developer or the respective app technology developer who has created that website for the specific documentation. Google की तरह होता है, जैसे विकिपीडिया होता है, तो ये documentation is just like the languages Wikipedia. तो Flutter का है cookbook documentation, Flutter cookbook. तो आप गूगल पे देखोगे तो आपको मिल जाएगा, वहां पे आपको सारे रेफरेंसेस मिल जाएंगे. So you don't need to buy any book, and the Flutter cookbook is absolutely free. So if you want to understand what this line of code does, etc., etc., you will understand with great detail and to the point. I have done coding in Java and Kotlin, so when I seen their documentation, it is very confusing. But seeing cookbook of Flutter, it is less confusing. So documentation is always confusing if you are new, but when you get experience, it will be a piece of cake for you. Just 1 month experience is enough. 1 month of hard work is enough to get to the point where to understand this documentation, what this code does, and take the reference from documentation. So these are the advantages of Flutter, main advantages. So this is the future of Flutter. We will discuss it later. Now let's build our first app using Flutter. See, I have, this is the imitator where I will show you how to build the app. So you have already seen that that there has been a link attached to install Flutter in your computer, and an Android Studio IDE or VS Code is required. It will Android Studio will take around 1 minute to start. So so you have to install that IDE. It will be around 1 to 2 GB. So download it and install it, and it is very necessary to code, obviously. So here we start a new Flutter project on the second one. So here you can see many options: Flutter application, Flutter plugin, Flutter package, Flutter module, all these. These are things that are add-ons in your app. That these are just pieces to understand that, for example, you add a block, or you create a different type of functionality, you create a plugin. You want to add more widgets, etc., etc., you create a package. And same goes for module. It is a hybrid of plugin and package. So we are building our basic app. So let us start with Flutter application. You are a newbie right now, so Flutter application is what you will do, and in personal projects you will build a Flutter application. These things are when you are doing a job or when you are doing freelancing and you are getting paid. So you have to start with Flutter application, click on next. You can also go on previous and next and previous, so there is an option, so don't worry about it. Now project name, let's name our project my first Flutter application. Here is the SDK path. Now, what is SDK? SDK is standard development kit which you have downloaded while downloading Flutter. So SDK contains all the piece of code that is required for your Flutter code to work. Just like you install a compiler, SDK is just like a compiler. It is an analogy different from compiler, but in this respect, you may consider this analogy because you are a new person right now. So this is the path. Here it is: users, my name, laptop's name, the developer folder, and under developer folder Flutter. And now the project location where this project will be created would be under users, laptop's name, desktop here, and Flutter projects. See here, Flutter projects. So here will be my code file created, and this is the description. You can write anything. It doesn't matter, because when you upload your app, this doesn't show on Play Store or App Store. You have to write your own description, so it doesn't really matter at all. But you want to write, be right. Nobody stops you. So click on next. Now, what is this package name? If you work in big companies like Microsoft, Google, or Amazon, you will have websites like Amazon.com, Microsoft.com, etc., etc. Similarly, when you build their apps, you would have to write package name as com.amazon. Whatever your name is, app name is, and similarly com.google. Whatever your name is, etc., etc. But this is my personal project or your personal project, so you can write your name. It doesn't really matter if you are building personal projects. So click finish. Now Flutter will be creating that project are being executed now. So here it is. The project has been created. So these are the tips that will pop up when you open the Android Studio and see. Here is the code. This is the default code when you open any project. So let's start. See, this is the folder which will be present under your desktop or wherever you have stored your code file. Here is that folder. When you open it, there will be many files for Android, for iOS, etc. etc. So here you can see that this is the behind the work scene which Flutter does so that your Dart language code becomes compatible with Android as well as iOS. So this is the basic code which has been written for creating a basic app. Let's see how it runs. Click on this green play button here. And now in the console, you will see your progress. Launching this file main.dart on this emulator. See the app which you create first. The running will take around 1 to 1.3, 1.5 minutes. So don't worry about that. It is the first step. So only at that around 2 minutes will be used. But after that, a hot reload will only take 5 seconds. This is the just one time process. So don't worry about it. It will get started. See here the progress running gradle task, etc. etc. Now see, build has been complete and the app is now being installed. Just like build, you have seen that when you download app from Play Store or App Store, you first download the app and then installation gets completed. So similarly is the process. Build is here and it is present in the project file folder under build file, then under app file, then under outputs, APK, which is the app file folder, debug, and these many files which I will show you later on. So here you see that this is the machine code or machine, what the machine wants to say to us, etc. etc. Everything is white, so don't need to worry about it. Only red things indicate error, and unless there is no error, don't worry about it, or your functionality is getting worked as you want. And don't worry about these white lines; they will always come. So let's see our app. Here it is. What does it say? Flutter demo homepage. The basic default app which was created, and you can see you have pushed the button this many times. Which button? This button. Now let's push this button. See, I pushed and the counter increased to 1. This counter. Again 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now let's see the functionality and how the code was written for this functionality. See, the first thing is that as you have seen that in C, there is a main function. Similarly is the case. In this, you have a main function, and the main function, what it does is it calls a method which is called as run app. So I want to run an app, and it is my app. Run an app, which is my app, and what is my app? My app is here. You have to run this my app class, and my app class, you may find it a little bit complicating because you are a beginner, so don't need to worry about it. Just listen to which line of code I am pointing to you. So you see that there is a title, my homepage title. This is the title which we are pointing, and the color is blue. This is the blue color. If you want to change the color, let's have it red. Click on hot restart. Wait for 3 to 4 seconds. And see a change. The color has been changed, and if you want to change the color to yellow, wait for 4 to 5 seconds. See, emulators work slow. So I will suggest that you will use a physical device by connecting the USB cable with it. So if you connect the USB cable with your device, the app will be built there. So I suggest that you should use a physical device because it is taking 15 to 20 seconds. But if you do that in Java or Kotlin, it will take 1.5 to 2 minutes. So I will suggest that you use a physical device for maximum efficiency. Now you see title has been changed. You can see that you can change the name. Click on hot restart. See, the name has changed. So this is how these things work. Now you must have noticed that what is this text? Where we have coded this text? We have coded it right here. Under what? Under this my homepage class. When we have passed the title, which is Flutter webinar, from here we have passed the title. And when this title is passed, this string title will store this string. So the title will be stored in this string. And now you can see that your text is here inside the scaffold widget. Scaffold is the basic thing in which everything is present. It is where everything of your code is present in the front end part. So you can add some functionality in it, but I will suggest that you do outside of scaffold. So in the scaffold, we have app bar. App bar is this yellow rectangle. This is called as app bar. And the title of this app bar is Flutter webinar, which is passed here. Title, text, widget.title. Title is that variable which stores the string of Flutter webinar. So you can see that you can add widget.title, or you can simply write Flutter webinar, because the result will be same. So I will suggest that you write widget.title. See, app has been started and no change has been done. Now under there is a center thing. Body is in center. Yes, these two things are in center. So we have placed these two things in center, and in this center we have a column. Column is just like a line. These things are placed in column. These two things. So these two things are placed in center and in a column. So this is the logic behind this, and this column has children. As you can see, there are two things. One is a text and the other is a variable. So these two things are the children. You can add anything, etc. Like I want to add a text. Write text with T capital. Open a single curly brace. Now add what text you want to store. Like career and counseling cell and see. Let's run it. See, emulators are slow, so they are taking 15 seconds. So here you can see that the career and counseling cell has been added in column-wise section, column-wise fashion. So you can see that columns are being maintained just like there are rows of seats, etc., etc. So now after this, what we have is a floating action button. What is that button? This button is floating action button, and when you click it, it has a functionality which increases the number of this. So floating action button or any button you use must have two things. One thing is on pressed, which says what is the functionality of your button, and the second thing is child, that what type of thing the button should show. So the functionality is on press is a function which is called as increment counter. Now if I remove it, see, it has been highlighted. That means it wants something. The parameter on pressed is required. That means this button requires a document, requires a functionality, and open documentation says that. Open documentation means that they will redirect to you to the website of the documentation. So I control X, now control V, cut and paste. So here it is back again, and the error has been gone, and it is maintained. So and the thing is child is it has an icon, and icon, what is that icon? Icon is of that of an add button. Add, just like you add plus etc. This is the material design of that icon. You can change it to anything you want. Let's change it to a scissor icon. See the change. See, as you can see, 12 seconds were required for the first initial stages. Now only 7 seconds are required. These seconds will be decreased later on. And there is the cut sign. Whichever you sign you want, you can add that through here. So let us see add sign only because it seems logical in this scenario. Now I have said that I have shown all the front end. Now how the backend works, that how is this counter increased? This increased using this increment counter function. And where is that function? Where is the code of that function written? Let us see. Yes, here it is. This increment counter function is a void function which returns nothing, but it does something on the variables, or it prints something, etc. Void functions do this thing. So it returns nothing, and under this set state, there is a counter variable which I have placed here, and this counter variable is initially set to 0 here. And when you click on this button, this increment counter will be called, and the counter variable will increase, and the increased counter variable will be shown here under this counter. So here the counter will be shown. So this is how the things work while calling the functions in Flutter. But set state is very important. Now what is set state? Because of this set state, you can see live changes in your app. If you haven't added this set state, you won't see live changes. For example, let me remove this. Control slash for adding comment. Control slash. Restart our app. Set state has been removed. Only counter plus plus happens. See, app has been restarted to 0. Now you add plus. Nothing happens because the counter variable is increasing, but the change has not been displayed because set state means that you have to see dynamic changes. So let us add set state back. Run the app. functionality is back to normal. So you can meddle with this variable. You can change it to anything, any number 78, for example, in the app. Now the initial number that will come here will be 78. Because this text widget is showing the value of counter variable. So counter variable is here. So it will retrieve the data of counter variable, and hence you will see that counter variable will be displayed here. Changes have been made. 78, you increase. 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, etc. So you can meddle with this counter variable. And also, if you want to subtract now, that when I click this button, this number decreases. So I just have to do counter minus minus and the variable will decrease. So backend works is just like you call functions in C++, you have to call functions here. Functions are very important because if you don't do functional programming, the code will become very complex and you will just, because thousands of lines of codes are there and there are hundreds of widgets and some widget does something, other does something, you will be very confused. So place these things other elsewhere, just like I have placed this increment counter function elsewhere, and the name of this function displays that what it does. It does this, that it increments the count. So the counter has been decreased because I pressed 5 times counter minus minus. Let's change it back to plus plus.
Rohan sir, can you zoom the screen a bit?
Okay, bro. See, the functionality is back to normal. So this is how these functions work, backend works. So any doubts as of now? So let us discuss some doubts. You can ask your doubts in chat box. So Paras will be the one to ask the doubts. Over to you, Paras.
Sir, there is a doubt. Yes, sir. So there is a doubt that being in second year, can students make their minor in Flutter?
Obviously, you can make your minor in Flutter because Flutter is used for app development and your projects will be of web and apps. So Flutter is very easy to learn as compared to Java and Kotlin. If you have done Java or Kotlin, you must have seen that you have to line a lot of line. You have to line lots of lines of code. So in Flutter, you have to write less lines of code and the functionality will be same. So I would suggest that you should use Flutter for this purpose of your minor project. And Flutter is in demand because it is a new technology with a robust backup and a great team of Google working behind the scenes. So that's it.
Okay. And sir, another question is, being a beginner, where should I go for web development or app development?
Paras, can you repeat? There was a problem in net.
Being a beginner, what shall a student do, web development or Android?
See, web development or Android development, it is your choice. See, I have done app development because many of my classmates are doing web development. So I wanted to do something unique. And when you want to do something unique in a unique path, there will be hardships because there was a because nobody because there was no Flutter developer in my class and I have to learn by myself. So that really helped me to grow. And also it had increased my logical building and even competitive programming because the backend requires logical thinking and syntax matching, etc. So it's your choice to choose Flutter development or web development. But there are many web developers in the world as compared to app developers. The numbers, the ratio is very high, around 5 is to 1. So if you do app development, there will be less competition. So it would be advantageous. And also app development requires more of backend as compared to web development because web has front end, back end, and if you choose front end, that then there will be no extra logical thinking as compared to backend. So that will not increase your competitive programming skills if you are doing front end alone. But in app development, you have to do full stack. You can't be just front end or you can't be just back end. You have to be both front end and back end. So full stack is necessary. So these are the things that are what makes app and web development. Now it's your choice what to pursue. Thank you. Any other question, Paras?
Yes, sir. Sir, there is a question. There are a number of languages, but can you tell on what basis we consider a language to be better?
See, the thing that requires is that language. You, if you have learned a language, for example, it took me 1.5 months to learn C language, and then it took me only 7 days to learn C++, and then only 7 days or so for learning Kotlin, and same goes for Java. So when you have a base and you have learned one language, then it is very easy. It is not like Spanish, Japanese, Hindi, English, where all the words are different. The computer languages have a common syntax. They have a common logic. Their logic is their logic is what makes your code run. So it is pretty much same in everything. So it is basically English. So I think only first language will require you 1 to 2 months to learn, and after that 7 days will be required. And if you want to compare languages, you should also see that in which language there is no compromise of functionality, and you have to write less line of code to make it more readable. You don't have to compromise with functionality, and be aware of the number of lines of code you write, because readability really matters, because you will write thousands of lines of code when you work in companies and hundreds of lines of code when you create your personal projects which you will add in your resume. So hundreds of lines can be 200 lines can be 400 lines in Java, 200 lines of Kotlin can be 400 lines of Java. So choose according to that. Functionality matters, and the second thing that matters is there should be less lines of code for our comfort. So this is the answer.
Okay, sir. Sir, the next question is, does Flutter also makes backend or what should we use for backend?
See, Flutter is the language. Flutter is not the language, Dart is the language. Flutter is the framework. Just like in a company, you have a boss and the employees do the real work, groundwork. So groundwork is done by Dart, and Flutter is a framework which has created the setup and environment. So Flutter is not the language, Dart is the language, and Dart can do both front end and back end. As I have shown you in the increment counter. When you call the increment counter function, it increases the value. That is the back end, and the designing of text, that is the front end. So you can do front end and back end in both Dart language. So this is the advantage. In web, you may require HTML, CSS, JavaScript, three languages, and only front end, and Python or Java in backend. So five languages are constituted only here, alongside different types of tens of twenties of frameworks. So in Flutter, you can only do that in one. And also in Android, you have three languages: Java, Kotlin, and XML. Only one in Flutter. So 5 to 6 languages are required to build platform-specific apps in Android and iOS, while Flutter does that in only one language. So your work is saved by around 20%. Has been reduced to 20%. Sorry. So this is a very big advantage. Yes, Paras, next question.
Sir, the next question is, if I go for the placement sort of views, can a
Okay.
front-end developer also get placed if he works hard only on front end for all his 4-year BTech journey?
See, if you have built a great variety of projects and you have done a lot of projects, you can even get placed in Google, because Flutter is built by Google. And if you have a very vast amount of knowledge in Flutter, then they can hire you after the interview process and seeing your resume of your projects. So development has infinite potential. You can reach anywhere with development. So I think development has a lot of potential, but if you do average work, then around 30,000 per month in either web or app development, they will give you 30,000. What is really required is data structures and algorithms. If you want to get in companies like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, where the packages start from 1 lakh per month. So hence, I will suggest that you should also do data structures and algorithms alongside competitive programming with development. Web development or app development, it doesn't really matter because salary would be 30,000 for you and they won't pay you extra for doing twice the work. So development is just something that you can master in 6 months. Only 6 months are required for mastery, and you people are in second year. You have 3 years. So I suggest that just to slowly the web development or app development, and for the purpose of cracking the product based companies, you should do data structures and algorithms for the rest of 2.5 or 3 years which you have left. So these things are necessary. You should be holistic to get high placements. Everything has a cost, so bear it in mind. Next question, Paris. See, stateless widgets don't have a state and stateful widget have a state. For example, in a stateful widget, set state was used to increment counter. The function was placed in a stateful widget, which was underscore my home page. Underscore represents stateful widget. So stateful widgets increments the counter or it displays the changes live. While in stateless widget, you don't require to display your changes live. For example, in the text widget which was placed, the text which was written, you don't require a stateful widget. Stateless widget is enough for that. So this is the difference between stateful and stateless. Next question. Yes, after the seminar, I will add the link in the description of this video, and you can see this video again and again whenever you want. This will be open and free, etc. So in description box, everything will be placed. So what direction you should take and how to become an expert regarding that. Next question. Okay, I have not created the flowchart, but I will show you how the files have been placed into variety of folders which have different types of functionality. I will show that later on, but let's have some general questions right now. Any question, Paris, from chat box?
Yes, sir, there is a question. Is there any substitute for Flutter?
See, there are many substitutes for Flutter, but I have preferred to use Flutter because it has a great backing and it does the work. So you can see even Microsoft has created a framework for this for creating Android apps and iOS apps using one framework. So you can see that. But I will prefer Flutter over here because Flutter has been there for 2 years and Microsoft version is comparable new and development community of that is considerably low compared to that of Flutter's. See, as I told you, Microsoft has built a framework for itself, and Flutter has not reached its full potential. It will reach that in next 2 to 3 years. So Flutter has not reached its full potential, and when something doesn't has full potential, it will require time to get competitors to copy their style and have a competition. So as of now, only Microsoft is the main competitor. Rest all the things you can say is temporary, practically speaking. So I would say that use Flutter as of now, and when Flutter uses its full potential, then there will be substitutes available, and you can shift to that substitutes there because in 2 to 3 years you will get mastery in art development, so it will be very easy for you to shift. Next question, please. Full development, Flutter has a language Dart which does both front end and back end. I have shown you that. So any more questions? What to add? in APK? Acha, okay. So you have to go in pubspec.yaml file, pubspec.yaml file, and there is an assets folder right there. So first you have to introduce your file name, etc. in that assets line. Below that, I will cover that in later sessions because this will be a series of playlists which will be added. So this is the foundation. So in the next video, we will try to cover this asset adding, image adding. So there is an pubspec.yaml file where you can add the where you can write the line of code which represents the file name, and in you have to create a different folder in image where you place images, and in that you have to drag and drop or copy paste your respected image.
Sir, there was also another question.
Okay.
Some of the students have asked that right now, as we are having only 1 hour to deal with it and to have an interaction with you, but Flutter, it's a great concept which can't be just completed in 1 hour only. So, can you organize some workshop type of series in online or offline mode so that we can have a great grasp over the language, over the framework?
Obviously, we will do that. As you say that if you want a new session, you can just write in comment box displaying that you need it. So we will try that in every week or 2 weeks. We will try to upload the next series of this playlist. And sharing knowledge is very important, and I'm very willing to share my knowledge free of cost. So I will be very happy. I just want to know your responses. Just type in comment section that uh, you want a continuation. Then I will be more than pleased. Thank you. And 8 to 10 hours are required to get to intermediate level in Flutter. So this will be a 1 hour seminar. So I will upload more 1 hour seminars according to your responses. So yes, there will be a playlist which will be free of cost. So yes, don't worry about it.
Okay, sir.
See, framework is the reason why language works, why the common language works, because Flutter is something which just acts as an intermediary. It acts as an intermediary between the Java or Kotlin code and iOS code, so that your Android and iOS apps are created using Flutter code. That Flutter code, using that framework, the Flutter code gets converted into respective Android code and iOS code. So framework is very necessary, and there is a common language. Framework is required for a common language, just like a office is required for the efficient working of any company. Any more doubts? Okay, sir. From Paras
Thank you, Rohan
Pradeep.
sir, for such an informative session.
So now, Paras,
And
there is
I hope,
Q&A.
yeah, yeah.
So there are just 5 to 10 minutes. I will tell you how to proceed to future path. This is an add-on, surprise add-on. Members don't know, so this will be a surprise add-on in which you will know how to deal with Flutter, what is the future of Flutter, and how to proceed further on in increasing your Flutter development skills. So let me start the screen share, and we will now see what you can do more with Flutter. And I will share you the path to make you a competent Flutter developer.
Yes, sir, sure, it will be really helpful for the students.
Is screen share working?
Yes, sir.
So now let us go to the future of Flutter slide. Present it. So now what is the future of Flutter? At first, most developers only created prototype apps. Now what are prototype apps? The apps which are just sample apps which you display to your higher authorities that this is the design I want to display in my project, etc. So at that time, Flutter is very easy to use. So they created prototype apps in the beginning of 2019 or end of 2018. So this is what developers did initially. But when they realized the full potential of Flutter, they are building full-fledged apps. With just in just 2 years, many big companies have shifted to creating their apps in Flutter. Just the biggest Asian e-commerce website, Alibaba, which is of Chinese Jack Ma, has created that app in Flutter. See, I am also against China, but you see that Alibaba, we can see their success and we can learn from that. We can learn from the success of our enemies. So don't worry about it. Don't get hype about it. But Alibaba is also created in Flutter, the app of Alibaba, because of its beautiful UI and out of the box UI and great developer friendly code with less readable lines. Google Ads app, which you place ads on YouTube, on Google websites, or on Facebook, or on any Google subdomain, YouTube, etc. You place that ads. You have to transfer the money in Google Ads app, and also that money will be transferred and the number of views will be generated according to the amount transferred in the direct ratio. So Google Ads is also built in that app in that technology, Flutter technology. So yes, you see that they are trusting billions of dollars of money on just Flutter technology. So yes, it has a great functionality. And another app, Reflectly, it is a very popular app. You may download it. It is a lifestyle app where you want to just add your dreams, or you want to add your goals, or you want to like, or you want to see different kinds of thing, clothing, houses, etc. Everything related to lifestyle. That app is also built in Reflectly. See, this is a lifestyle app, so UI is very necessary. So they have chosen Flutter for that. And Birch Finance, another app which involves billions of dollars of money. They have also trusted Flutter of Google. So Flutter is ready to set high standards for cross-platform development in coming years. This is just the beginning. By 2025, you will see many apps there. But now you may see that it has been 2 years. Then why doesn't everybody shift to it? Because there are lakhs of lines of code. Even in Facebook, there are 70 billion lines of code and 200 billions of lines of code in Google Chrome, etc. See, there are many lines of code. You can't just shift in months. It requires years of hard work, etc. So, and teams of thousands of capable software engineers. So yes, it will take time, and the potential will be reached soon in 3 to 4 years. And by then, you will be a very strong developer in Flutter. Just follow the right path, practice, give time, struggle. You will grow and grow and grow. So I have already built the app. Plan was originally to build an app later on. So now next steps. So next steps is you have to master front-end designing. There will be more videos regarding that. You have to learn different backend features, the adding functionality, different functionalities, REST API, fetching data from different database and showing that data in your app is called as API. REST API, you should learn that. Database management, data, huge amounts of data are stored. You have to also learn that if you want to create great projects to stand you out in the league. And also Firebase authentication. Authentication means login, sign up, using Gmail or creating account, etc. This is authentication, and this is done mainly by Firebase of Google. And Firebase of Google is very good because if you want to see, you have seen that there are Google sign up. They are all created using Firebase. Websites use it, apps use it, everybody uses it for authentication. So question and answers, any more? And then later on we will end this session. Any more question and answers? Paras, Sayam sir, Praveen sir? See, I will upload the link in description later on. Don't worry about that. Any other question?
I hope there is no much question just for now.
So is it safe to end here?
Thank you so much, Rohan sir, for such a wonderful session. Let me say, this is one of the most terrific training I have ever attended. To
Thank you,
keep
Paras.
the motivation on the notes which you have shared is on my desk, so daily I have a glance on the same and help me to keep the momentum on. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Paras. I am really glad, and I want to thank Career and Counseling Cell for giving me this opportunity to present my knowledge in front of a YouTube base of which has billions of people on it. So I am very honored. Thank you, Career and Counseling Cell of IMC University, and thank you. I want to thank every one of the attendees to listen to this session patiently. And I just want to say that if you want a webinar and you want to add more webinars in this playlist, and you want to add more things in this playlist so that you can increase your Flutter potential, or you can learn your Flutter knowledge through this career and counseling session with me hosting the webinars, then you can just write in comments, and every comment matters. So please write it. Every comment means that my motivation has been increased to share my knowledge. So do write in comments if you like the session, and if you want more sessions, do write it. It will maybe take 30 seconds, but it really matters to me. So thank you. Paras, any words?
Thank you, sir.
So thank you everyone. Let's end our meeting here. So goodbye. Have a great health, everybody. Thank you.